Welcome to Decode Your Burnout, the podcast where we crack the code on burnout based on three primary factors: your programming, environment, and personality. We also feature experts who debunk the myths about what it takes to be successful in their industry and spin those tips to fit the workplace so you can optimize the way you work. I'm your host, Dr. Sharon Grossman, a psychologist turned coach, author, and burnout expert. If you're burned out and want to go from exhausted to extraordinary, book a free breakthrough session with me by going to bookachatwithsharon.com. And if you want to see how you're doing and what to focus on next, download the Burnout Checklist. You'll find the link in the show notes or go to bit.ly/checkyourburnout. Now let's get started. We had a little bit of a lag in internet connection, but I think you'll find that there's enough value to overlook that and stick around until the end to hear Dr. Stephan Neff's story on sobriety and overcoming burnout. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Decode Your Burnout with me, Dr. Sharon Grossman. And today we are joined by Dr. Stephan Neff, who is an anesthetist. I don't know if I'm saying that right, Stephan.
Good enough.
All right. And he's had, if anyone's wondering, it's somebody who administers anesthesia, just so we're all clear. And he has had more than his fair share of trauma in his life. He has tried to drown PTSD, depression, and anxiety in industrial doses of vodka, but had to learn the hard way that those critters can swim. These are his words. Nowadays, he lives a very different life where self-love, humility, integrity, and transparency actually mean something. He hosts the show, My Steps to Sobriety, and has just released the second edition of his book under the same name. Dr. Stephan, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Sharon. It's an absolute honor to be here. And yes, I certainly have got the, I was there, I've got the t-shirt, I've burnt out the t-shirt. So yes, where shall I start, for crying out loud? I'm Mr. Burnout.
Well, I think, first of all, just thank you for coming on and sharing your story. I think that, first of all, having said what you just said, you are in the right place. And our job now is to just give you the floor and have you tell your story in the way that feels good to you, with the purpose of having our listeners hear something that maybe resonates for them. Because I know that there are a lot of people out there that have struggled with all the things that you've struggled with, whether it's PTSD, whether it's depression, whether it's anxiety, or whether it's substance abuse. And they're trying to figure it out too. So I would love to hear your story. And as you tell it, we're going to be listening for these three contributing factors: your potential programming that may have contributed to burnout, any sort of environmental stressors that you were facing at the time, as well as your personality. So with all that, and you have the floor.
They're all highly interlinked, aren't they? These
really are. Yes.
If I think back, then I was initially a mediocre student, and I was at school. I always felt sort of the odd kid out. I was not a loner. I wouldn't say that, but equally, it was weird. I always felt the odd kid out. And it was a strange programming because I came from poor circumstances in Germany, and my programming was very much, first of all, you will probably never go to university. You're not really that bright, and you're not really, forget about it. So we're going to put you in a school that prepares you for a solid handcraft, so become a plumber, etc. And that was sort of the way I was initially programmed. Not really, it was what it was. Turns out that through a number of factors, I actually excelled extremely well in my setting. I get actually hooked on being the best in class, and suddenly disproving maybe my parents, maybe wanting them to love me more or show me their love more. Now that I can actually. That I suddenly brought home best of class, and it became like an addiction, and it was really, really cool because it was not like in maybe an American system where the best one gets bullied, etc., and you become a nerd. No, on the contrary, sort of the cool kids and the cool girls, especially in school, came to me and said, "Well, can we meet? And can you teach me a little bit? And do me a math lesson or something like that?" And I said, "Yeah, yes, please." So there was it was really quite nice. But there was always this core belief there, or these core beliefs that I need to work harder. I always had to prove myself. I always had to go more out there. So I very soon became a perfectionist. And if I had one question wrong in a 100-question thing, I would argue. I became renowned amongst the teachers, arguing with them because I had learned it so well. I knew more than the teacher. Often enough, I actually did. But it was this perfectionism. It was, with hindsight, my goodness. I mean, perfectionism is great when you're a doctor. Okay, you get 100% of your people surviving. That is recognized as something quite nice. 95% survival. So therefore, in my field, it was actually encouraged. And the work ethic of working, that was the 70s and 80s when I sort of came into the workforce as a student and then as a junior doctor. Well, I'm sorry. What do you mean you want to go home? You come before the boss and you leave after the boss. So 60-hour weeks, 70-hour weeks, that was the norm. That was expected. So there were all these kind of things that were setting me up ultimately really beautifully for burnout. And that's how I lived for many decades. Work, crash. Work, crash. And it was weird. During all that, I mean, in all fairness, I had trauma in my life. So there were quite a bit of stuff happening with me in my teenager years, which left me quite dark. So I was the victim of a gang assault, and I ended up training very hard in addition to working very hard at school. So I started training with the police in martial arts, and I would have a full school day, and then I would do 2 to 4 hours of training with regards to martial arts. So there was always this continuous busyness. I kept myself busy throughout the whole youth. And when I was not training or learning, then I was stacking shelves in a supermarket because I wanted to earn money. So I basically never gave myself time to heal or to think. I never was introduced to my emotions. A man is a real man who shuts up and gets on with life. That kind of behavior, those kind of things. So I ended up using work as an addiction, as a means of running away. I became addicted to my work. And because when I was working, I didn't have to think about my life. And then I came home, and certainly later in my mid-20s, when I had by now discovered alcohol as the beautiful crutch that it was, I then ended up basically just drinking. So my life condensed down to working hard, playing hard, that's it. And needless to say, I abused my body so much. Probably my nutrition wasn't the best, despite the fact that I was actually, I think I was eating healthy. But with hindsight, no, I was eating a rich European food, Italian, Yugoslavian, you name it. It was beautiful. I had by now learned to cook. I made some really yummy pasta dishes. There were not too many vegetables hurt in the making of these dishes. So, I drank heavily, socially heavily. So therefore, I already robbed my body from the nutrients that it needed. And then I didn't feed it the nutrients. I certainly didn't take any nutraceuticals. So ultimately, I didn't drink enough water. I didn't sleep enough. I didn't eat the right things. I didn't exercise. I drank like a fish. I worked like an idiot. How long can your body last with that? And it would happen. I would work, and then I got sick. And I mean, I had some humdingers of colds because my body was so run down. And there were times when I was literally in bed, virtually semi-conscious, because I was just rolled up in a fetal position. And it was just nuts. It was absolute nuts. And the crazy thing is, as a doctor, I was really good in diagnosing all these things in someone else. I could see it a mile away, and told other people some really valuable advice. And I was watching self-help films and read. There's probably not many self-help books that I didn't read, but typically with a glass of wine in my hand. And it was just nuts. So the life that I lived was all talk, but certainly I didn't walk the walk, for sure not. So therefore, yes, I consider myself a master of burnout, because I tried to experience it from every single aspect of burnout that possibly could be. I did it. So therefore, I thought I'm not a bad guest for this show, actually.
Yes, you qualify for sure. Well, okay. So, you talked about all these preconditions, even going back to your childhood. I would say you're kind of doing my job already for me. So thank you for already filling in a lot of the gaps. And
it's not your job. It took me 8 years of healing to actually get to that point, and I'm still learning about what I did. I finally made sense out of this chaos. So I guess that's one little achievement I can take from there.
Yeah. So you had all these things that kind of brought you to this place of, I don't like my life. And in order for me not to look at it, not to face it, and not to feel it, I either busy myself with work or I drink and get out of this here and now space. Right. And so you talk about all the things that you did in addition to drinking, and like in addition to just escaping, which was just neglecting yourself, almost feels like there's this self-hatred, right? Where we abuse our body and we don't take care of ourselves. We're doing all these things. Mm. And I see this a lot actually with people who have trauma because of this faulty misinterpretation of like, if people did this to me, it must mean that I'm worthless, right? As opposed to like, I am the victim of somebody else's stuff, which was completely wrong. But there's nothing wrong with me. It's just that they were in their crazy space, right? We kind of take it out on ourselves now. So now you become your own abuser.
It's an interesting take on things, and there might very well be a grain of truth there. These are the bloody core beliefs that are running below our emotions, and they are so hard to decipher. They are so hard to actually really see what's happening, but there might very well be a bloody good grain, a big grain of truth there.
Well, you started by saying how when your parents didn't really believe in you and they put you in this school, you became really obsessed with disproving them and showing them that you're very capable and that you can be the best. And there's this notion that if I can do that, if I can show up as that perfect student, then they'll love me.
Right? I guess yes, that is an interpretation. When I look back at that, I think that is what one of the underlying drivers was. My mom and dad were divorced, so I grew up with my great-grandmother, and it was always, I think with hindsight, that particular thing played actually a far bigger role than I liked to admit for much of my life.
Yeah.
And
then I also hear a lot of people that go into medicine have that same perfectionistic tendency, and the need to kind of save other people and to be not necessarily admired, but right, like to feel like what they're doing is like a greater good, right? They're helping other people. And then in doing all this amazing stuff and working as hard as you are, then there's this hope that somewhere in there, I'll have value. I'll finally be worthy.
And that's so true, because I identified myself completely with my profession, or there was nothing else I could say. If someone says, "Oh, tell me about you," I would say, "Yes, I'm an anesthetist and I'm a pain physician." Yeah. No, tell me about you. Well, I've just told you, I'm an anesthetist. I'm really good in my job. I couldn't have told you that I'm a creative person, that I'm a sportive person, that I'm all these kind of things, because I wasn't. I was completely lost in there somewhere. And that was the biggest challenge for me in recovery. Once I went into rehab 8 years ago and came out, I was an empty shell. And that felt quite strange. It was really empty. Nowadays, I recognize it as the unique reset, the unique restart that I had the privilege of being given. I had a new canvas and I could draw on there whatever I wanted, but I had no idea what I wanted. And that was the really beautiful thing. So I started reinventing myself, and I still do so every minute, every hour of the day, with new decisions, new dreams, new visions that I then change into missions by taking action. All those kind of things, that kind of lifestyle that I live nowadays is so beautiful, but it was so foreign to me when I was in the midst of all that busyness and all that hiding and all that negative emotions, that I had no way of even knowing those emotions or knowing where they come from or knowing how to deal with them. So there were a lot of emotional stuff going on that I was just a victim of, ultimately. So I was like an emotional teenager at the age of 35 and 40. So it was actually, with hindsight, shall I say, embarrassing. Now that I realize really what has occurred, what has happened, I just want to take that young man into my arms and want to say, "Hey, man, don't try so hard. Don't try so hard, and just be you. Just right now, give yourself a break. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to be you. You're great as you are." And yeah, but no one ever tells you that. And especially not when you become a doctor. You come sort of to the top of the hierarchy, and it's a very lonesome place for us. We build up harder walls and masks in front of us because everything has to be perfect. And it makes it so much harder for many doctors to actually admit that they're struggling. I think that is our biggest flaw as doctors, the wellness, our own mental health and wellness. We don't look after even anywhere close the way we should be. And that is my mission nowadays, to speak out about that, to say that it's absolutely normal for you to feel low, and even so low that you are clinically depressed. That will happen to you 1 in 3, 1 in 4 chance in your life. So just as much as you know that sooner or later your car might break down and you have got insurance for it, or your tire blows out and you have got a spare tire, well, you don't have a spare body, but at least you might do something on your body and on your mind and on your soul to actually get a bit more resilient, be aware of those things, get to know yourself, and live in a moment. Live right now. This is a lesson I learned the very, very hard way. But now I'm here, and now I'm enjoying sitting here right now, being a bit uncomfortable because you ask me very, very good questions that are going to the deep inner heart of me. But I have shown up. I'm I'm here and facing the music. And by talking to you and opening up, I know I'm going to be a different man when this interview finishes than compared with when I've started, because I've done another little bit of work. I've taken action to get to know myself by talking to you, by explaining things to you. I have today chosen maybe mildly different words in describing it. And suddenly, when my words came out, my ears soaked them back in, they thought, I didn't think about that. And it's that kind of beautiful thing. By us connecting, by you allowing me to speak out on this platform and sharing my story, it's not just that I give something to maybe your audience, but also I actually give myself the love to actually explore again those times in my life, which I'm not so proud of, which I'm maybe ashamed of, maybe guilty about, but I'm exploring them. And suddenly they make a little bit more sense. And suddenly there's a little bit less, or a little less pain when I actually talk about them. And it's beautiful. So guys out there, please, please, please speak out. Please, please open up. The past does not equal the future. And I think we keep forgetting that. And we get so bogged down and we are so busy catastrophizing in our life. Oh my God. Oh, why me? Why me? And guess what? Your brain will come up with beautiful answers because it's designed to do that. It gives you answers. That's the only way how you can survive. So if you ask a question, why me? Oh, it will tell you 20 different reasons why you are a failure. Okay. Maybe you're asking the wrong questions. And that's something I learned the hard way. And I still learn every day because there's still this bloody voice. You're not good enough. You're not good enough. You're a failure. Look at you. That happened to you. Oh, that's all your fault. Shut up. Shut up. Honestly, just get off my shoulder. Get rid of. So I think that is the key thing, really, that I took such a long time to learn. And that's part of my mission, to demystify these things and come out and say, guys, I know the reason that you're sitting here and listening to these interviews, you have those voices, you have those warped core beliefs, you have those things that set you up to fail. Stop running for a bit and jump off the hamster wheel and actually just right now feel the moment and feel actually there's not much happening right now. Why am I so anxious? It could happen tomorrow. Yeah, it could happen. But right now, I mean, what's happening right now? You have got control over right now. So have you actually had a drink? Have you had some water? Have you had actually just go to the toilet? How many of us doctors run around with a big bladder and think, why the hell am I anxious? Why the hell? Oh, I haven't been to the toilet here. Stupid things like that because we're so bloody busy. So no, there's so many things. Sharon, you're such a great woman for actually bringing this awareness out there. Oh, where were you when I was in the middle of freaking burnout cycles? Having said that, even if you were there at that time, I would have probably not listened.
I was going to say, and I would say that's why we're doing this now, because there's going to be people out there who are in that place where you were, and maybe they're not ready to listen. But I think people who are tuning in, they're in that place where they're looking for answers. They understand that this is a problem. And that's, I think, one of the biggest issues with burnout is that we don't see it in ourselves. Just like you said, we don't recognize it until after the fact. And I've had people say to me, I only realize now that job that I had 3 years ago, that was burnout for me. Right. So I think it is really important to talk about this. And I'm always so grateful when people come on and are vulnerable and are able to share their stories. And as you just spoke to us, I could almost feel like there's people out there that you were talking directly to them in the way that you characterize the way that you talk to yourself, it was almost like you were now talking in that same way to listeners. And I think that that can really be very impactful. So, but I want to take you back a little bit, because where you left us off with regards to your burnout journey is that you were left in a fetal position. And so we know that you have come a long way from where you were before. Before you were really trying to escape and to bury all of your emotions and busy yourself. I mean, you were that doer on a mission to really prove your worth. And now you're this really amazing person who has realized his excellence and his ability to be creative, and you connect with people and you share, and you are so giving, and also recognizing that in yourself. So you've definitely healed from a lot of where you were before. You're a completely different person. Before, you didn't really have an identity outside of your profession. And now your identity has developed into this really bigger picture of all these different areas of your life. So we've seen this transformation, but take us back to the bridge, right? So you're in fetal position, you're burned out, you're drinking a lot of alcohol, you're neglecting your body. How do you go from that to where you are today? What did that take for you?
Oh, a $27,000 holiday, everything included, board, lodgings, and 6 to 8 hours of intensive input, and it's called rehab. It was the best holiday I've ever taken in my life, and it was a holiday where I was completely taken outside of my life. So I had a holiday from my life. I had a holiday from the old me, and I was in a protected bubble where I could speak out, where suddenly I had the opportunity and the duty to face the real me. And that was one of the hardest things I've ever done, to actually face the demons that are eating away at my soul every day, or had been so for the last 30 years. And that was one of the hardest things I did, and one of the most beautiful things I've did. So it was, my drinking had come to a point where I was clearly no longer in control, and my wife admitted me behind my back to a rehab hospital, and that became the start of my journey. And it was beautiful because I was surrounded by addicts. I mean, everyone there, the case managers, the yoga teacher, everyone bar one or two of the doctors were addicts. And by looking around, you could see they live different lives than those of us who had just been admitted. So you think, oh, okay, that's interesting. So, and because you can't bullshit a bullshitter, it was just amazing with regards to the honesty that transpires there. And it was an amazing time. I learned a lot about myself, and this particular system used the 12 steps of AA, but in a secular way. And it worked amazingly well for me. And yes, it put me at the start of a new journey that was, again, brutally honest, painful, yet also so gorgeous in its nature. And it's if you imagine it to a walk, it's a very meandering, a very weird, convoluted walk that I'm taking here, because I can't see around the corners. So there is no stretch that is, down there is the goal, I just go straight for that. There's nothing straight in my path, because healing happens in layers, and you don't realize how you need to heal or where you need to heal until something triggers you, until something happens again. And yeah, it was beautiful. So if you ask me what was the catalyst for the end of my burnouts, or for a massive reduction of my burnouts, shall I say it like that? Because I'm still the perfectionist. I'm still the guy who wants to do everything. I'm still the guy who who now focuses on his show, and he wants to have as many guests as possible. What do you mean I can only do three shows a week? Let's do it every day, twice a day. Come on. In addition to being full-time anesthetist, and in addition to writing books, and etc. So I think that setup in my mind, the deep core beliefs, they're still there. But nowadays I manage them a little bit better. I actually have no qualms. I have no guilt and shame to say, okay, I actually feel like crap today because 5 negative things have happened in the space of 24 hours. I'm actually feeling down and out, and I don't have to push myself now. I can watch NCIS or whatever kind of films I want to watch on my DVD player and play mindless games on my phone. That is absolutely fine. I don't need to be the special person. And unfortunately, you set yourself these goals, this healthy lifestyle that includes 30 minutes of exercise. Oh my God, if I don't do 30 minutes of exercise, I'm a failure. The voices are still there. And then I say, oh, no, stuff it. I swam yesterday and the day before. Today, I feel like crap. Okay, no, that's cool.
Yeah, so you have more self-compassion.
Today, no exercise. Absolutely. Yeah. Exactly. And that is this mindfulness, this awareness of my needs is something new on this path in the last 8 years. Mm-hmm. I see any emotion that is occurring. I see that as a messenger.
Well, that's what emotions really are.
Isn't it?
They have a message, a very unique message. We don't always want to hear it. And we're sometimes
exactly.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times it's because we assume it's going to be so painful and unrelenting that we're going to just die. And, our brain is really wired to avoid pain. So we're like, okay, well, let me just do everything but when we do face it, we realize it's so temporary and that it wasn't as bad as we thought. And maybe it wasn't like the most pleasant thing in the world, but we survived. Right. And then it's so much better on the other side. Mm. So much better.
So true.
So you've learned so much on this journey. And I'm curious if you can share some tips for people who are where you were and are listening to this. And they want to know how they can get to this new place in their life where they've expanded their identity. They have more self-compassion. They allow themselves perhaps to be a little bit less perfect and to feel like they're worthy regardless of their productivity. What would you say to them?
First of all, there is no quick fix. Let's be quite clear about that. This will be a lot of soul searching. And to do that alone, you're probably setting yourself from the word go up to fail. I would strongly suggest that you need a team, that you need someone who can help you, who listens to you, what you say, but also listens to you, what you don't say. That was for me often the key thing, because I thought I knew it all. Well, yeah, and see where that led me. No. So you need people who are a bit further down that path. So get yourself a coach or get yourself into a treatment program. Surround yourself with people who have been there, done that, and are just now thinking a bit differently than you. I think that's the key thing. But as far as the tips are concerned, it's very clear. The past does not equal the future. Please believe me. It is whatever has happened to you in the past, however often you try to escape reality because you actually fell into the realms of addiction. You actually ended up trying to numb yourself with maybe prescription drugs or alcohol or whatever it is. That was the past. That was you not having the insight, not knowing about your own trauma, those kind of things. That was then. Okay, the past does not equal the future. Number one. Number two, it is a lifelong, beautiful path that you're on, but it is a path where you need to walk. So you need to take action. So if you don't work on your recovery, you work on your relapse. That's what we are saying in the addiction field. The same could be said about your mental health. If you don't work on your mental health, you work on your mental sickness. So you choose by your actions, by your daily little steps, what you take, that determines which way you're heading. Last but not least, you need to have drivers that convince you that short-term pain, in the sense of, actually, I need to do a bit of exercise now, is worth it. And for that, you need a why. You need to figure out, what is your why? Why do you want to be healthy? Why do you want to break the cycle of burnout, of boom and bust? What drives you? What do you want? Who do you want to be, and why? You need to be quite clear. And I want you to dream one day. I want you to take a few hours, and I want you to dream, who is that person that I want to become? And then I want you to make that dream into a vision. I want you to be crystal clear, not just healthy. You say, I want to be looking good. Well, what does that mean for you? What is your bicep size as a man? What do you want to be? What's your weight? How do you want to look? Do you want to look more slim, or what is? Be crystal clear. Don't just say, I want to be rich. No, I want to have 1.3 million of expendable income every year. Okay, that's cool. That's a start. Be clear. So you've gone from a dream to a vision. And now you create a mission to actually say, okay, biceps, I want bigger biceps. Okay, how do I get there? What are the steps that I need to take? I probably need to eat more protein, might consider some creatinine, and I bloody well hit the weights with specific exercises for my biceps. Don't just go swimming. I don't think your biceps will grow much with that. So be very clear and take action in order to create, to change that vision into a mission and go there. And if you do that, then there is no holding you back. Find this why, find this drive, why you want to be that. Write it down. I want to look good with that biceps and that weight. I think my relationship is a little bit on the rocks. And if I can actually look better, I feel better, therefore I might be a better partner to my wife, or to my partner itself. And it is, my relationship will probably change. I might pay more attention to her than she is actually responding in a different way to me. So suddenly, things are changing. So suddenly you got already from biceps, which is maybe a bit out there, to actually, hey, you want love, and maybe you want a better relationship. And it's okay to start with that hook of biceps, cool with me, but you have just explored your why, because you want to be a different person. You want to have a different relationship. Whoa, now that's a breakthrough. So how cool is that?
Essentially, you're giving us a little bit of mindset, a little bit of identity work, and a lot of action that is aligned with that sense of purpose that we want to create in the world. A beautiful recommendation. And you have so much, obviously, to share. So when people are listening to this and they're intrigued by you, I know you've got a show. Tell us where to go to find you.
Yeah, the best thing to do is go to www.mystepstosobriety, all in one word, .com. mystepstosobriety.com. That is sort of the hub where you can find out a lot of things about me, where to find my show, how to be a guest on my show, how to invite me as a speaker, how to buy my books, which books am I writing now, which projects am I involved in. I'm very active in my new life, and it's beautiful. So come along for the journey. mystepstosobriety.com is a good starting point. And from there, you find me, you find everything else that you need to know.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your story and all of these amazing tips and resources. It's been a pleasure having you, and good luck on your journey. And I know that I'll be also on your show. So
yes.
So encouraging everybody to go and listen to that as well.
Absolutely. Because the opposite to mental being unwell and addiction is connection. And that's exactly what we're doing here. So Sharon and I, we will be around for a little while, and we're going to share our stories. So you guys learn from it. And Sharon, I'm honored that you had me on your show. Thank you so much. Thank you for putting this beautiful platform out there. Thank you for your time, effort, and passion in making this world a little bit better, one interview at a time.
Love it. That's a great note to end on. We'll see you all next week. Take care.